Hi, my family is divided over this, and I don't know if I should apologize. I would like to know what strangers think. On New Year's Eve, me, 25, my boyfriend, 24, and my parents attended a family gathering at my aunt's house. My cousin, 31, and her boyfriend, Max, 30-something, were there as well. Max is a trans man, and I met him 6 years ago when he and my cousin began dating before he made the transition. Back then, he was introduced to me as Mary, his birth name, so that's how I know what it was. When Max made the transition, we were informed that we should refer to him as Max, and he specifically asked us not to mention his previous name, Mary. This New Year's Eve was the first time Max met my boyfriend. My cousin and I are not close. We rarely see each other. Max was born in Country X. For the sake of this post, I will call it Elven Country, so his first language is Elvish. My boyfriend is also half Elvish, and his name is Elvish, but he was born in an English-speaking country. His name is pronounced very differently in Elvish, but the pronunciation he uses is English. Let's say his name is John, but in Elvish, it's pronounced like Jan, and it's not even a good example, as it doesn't accurately reflect just how different the pronunciation is. When we arrived, Max deduced that my boyfriend might be Elvish because of his name. My boyfriend explained that he is half Elvish, but was raised in an English-speaking country. He introduced himself to Max as an English-sounding shortening of his name. Think Johnny. Later during dinner, Max referred to my boyfriend as Jan. Initially, I didn't even realize Max was talking to him, as the Jan pronunciation doesn't sound like John at all, and my boyfriend never told me that the Elvish pronunciation was different. When I realized Max was talking to John, I looked at him and saw that this pronunciation made him very uncomfortable. John then said that he goes by John, not Jan. Max began arguing that Jan sounds much better than John and that Americans always mess up our names, irrelevant as John is not from the USA. John didn't respond. He always does everything to avoid conflict, but I could see how uncomfortable he was. John was raised by his Elvish father, who was extremely hurtful. He has been in therapy for a few years now, and he used to have a lot of flashbacks, but now, thanks to the therapy, they are rare. However, when Max was using the Jan pronunciation, I could tell that he was dissociating, like he was about to have a flashback. These were always very hard for him. Later, John told me that his father always called him Jan. His father mostly spoke Elvish with him. I got very angry with Max at this point. He kept saying Jan and going on and on about how we should use the original Elvish form of this name. I said, "How would you feel if we called you Mary?" Max became very angry as well and said it was a completely different story and uncalled for. He would avoid talking to either me or John until the end of the evening. When we got home later, I saw that my cousin, Max's girlfriend, messaged me that Max was upset and that I should call him and apologize. My parents say that I was right, that it should teach Max a lesson, and that I shouldn't apologize and take back what I said. John says I should probably apologize because Max couldn't know that the Jan pronunciation is triggering for him. I disagree, as I think you should call someone by how they introduce themselves, no questions asked, and it's rude to insist on a different name or pronunciation. However, I feel bad because I understand that it might be hard for trans people to hear their previous name. I know that I tend to get overprotective of John. Most people don't know about things that trigger him, and he cannot always set his boundaries. I know that it's not very helpful of me to set them for him. I'm dealing with this in therapy as well. So I know I was wrong for this. I should have let him handle it. However, my question is, was I a jerk to Max? Should I apologize to him? Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. As a transgender person, you are not the jerk. Respect goes both ways. And like a comment before me said, with Max being transgender, he should know the importance of respecting someone's name choice more than anyone, not the jerk. Comment 2. Max is the only jerk in the story. What a hypocrite. Can't be bothered to use the proper pronunciation of somebody's name, but will go off on somebody who dead names him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a month since my last post, and wow, things have taken some unexpected turns. I wanted to give you all an update because the situation with Max and my boyfriend John really blew up before we reached a compromise. So after the New Year's Eve incident, things were tense. My cousin, who's dating Max, was caught in the middle, and it was clear she was struggling to keep the peace. She's always been the mediator in the family, ever since we were kids, and would fight over silly things like who got the last piece of cake. But this was different and much more serious. John and I had a long talk about everything. He's always been private about his past, especially the parts involving his father. It took a lot for him to open up to me about the abuse he suffered and how certain things, like the Elvish pronunciation of his name, can trigger flashbacks. I've seen him work through his issues in therapy, and it's been a tough journey. He's made so much progress, and I felt terrible that I might have set him back by causing a scene. On the other hand, Max was still upset. He felt that my outburst at the dinner table was a personal attack on his identity. I could understand where he was coming from, considering his own journey with his transition. I remember when he first introduced himself as Max, it was a big moment for him, and he was so relieved when the family accepted him. I didn't want to invalidate that. After a lot of thought, I decided to reach out to Max. I wanted to apologize for using his birth name in the heat of the moment, but I also wanted to explain why John was so upset by being called Jan. It was a difficult conversation to have, especially since Max and I hadn't really talked much since he started dating my cousin. We were more like acquaintances than friends, and I wasn't sure how he'd react. To my surprise, Max was willing to listen. He admitted that he didn't realize the impact his insistence on the Elvish pronunciation would have on John. He shared with me that before his transition, he had his own struggles with identity and how people addressed him. It was a side of Max I hadn't seen before, and it made me see him in a new light. We both acknowledged that we had been insensitive to each other's feelings. Max agreed that he should have respected John's preference for his name from the start, and I admitted that I shouldn't have retaliated the way I did. It was a moment of understanding, and from there, we started to work on a compromise. The compromise we came up with was simple but effective. Max would call John by his preferred name, and I would make a sincere apology for my outburst. In return, Max asked that we both make an effort to learn more about each other's backgrounds and the sensitivities that come with them. He suggested that we all sit down together, maybe over a meal, and share our stories when we were ready. John was hesitant at first, but he agreed that it was a fair solution. He appreciated that Max was making an effort to understand him, and he was willing to do the same. The dinner happened last week, and it was surprisingly healing. John talked about his father and the reasons behind his discomfort with the Elvish pronunciation of his name. Max shared his experiences with his transition and how important his name was to him. It was an emotional evening, but it brought us all closer. My cousin was relieved to see the tension dissipate, and I could tell she was grateful that we had found a way to move past the conflict. It wasn't easy, but it felt like we had all grown from the experience. My husband's ex tried to ruin us with lies, so he went nuclear. She played the victim, but the truth came out and she got a taste of her own medicine. I'm 44 years old and female. I recently married my husband, who I was with for 4 years prior to marriage. He has 2 adult children. One is 25 years old. We have a great relationship, and the other is 17, our son. Their mother hated when their dad met me. They had been divorced for 3 years prior to us meeting. Their mother is still to this day having issues with the divorce, yet she's the one that wanted it. Now, I have tried to be good with my stepson. I would go out of my way to help him when his father and I started dating, but he would roll his eyes at me if I spoke to him. If I paid for food for all of us, he wouldn't eat. Come to find out, Mommy Dearest was telling him about how I broke her and his dad up, and if he wanted them to get back together, he needs to treat me badly. His father goes out of the way for him, as he should. He does spoil him with expensive items, and he doesn't say no to him often. He tries to put him first, so he is very good to this boy in so many ways. For his first Christmas, I purchased him a set of Apple AirPods. They were $199. He had been wanting them, and his dad had purchased him an Xbox, so I got the AirPods. I find out later he tossed them in the trash. It pissed me off. For his birthday, I got him a couple of vinyl records he wanted. He gave them away. So the next 2 Christmases, I just gave the gifts to his dad with his dad's name on them. He keeps them. So this year, I didn't buy him anything. I told his dad, and he said it was perfectly fine. Spend the money on the oldest. Well, during the Christmas gift exchange, we gave bags of gifts to everyone, and the stepson noticed that he only got 5 and his sister got 7. He apparently asked her why, and she said that 5 were from Dad and 2 were from me. I guess it upset him, so he called his mom and told her that I didn't get him anything this year. When we went to drop him off at his mom's, she was waiting outside and wanted to know why I hurt her son's feelings and didn't buy him anything. Before I could get a word out, my husband literally tore into her. He asked her if our son even considered my feelings when he threw the AirPods away and gave away the records that he had been begging for. He also mentioned how he treats me badly and how she, the mother, enables it. He looked at his son and told him that if you go around treating people the way your narcissistic mother does, you're going to be just like her, no friends or family, nothing, and to think about his actions and how they affect others. His mother started yelling at the son that his daddy doesn't love us anymore and has chosen his mistress. Well, that didn't go well with my husband. He shouted back, stating that she was right. He didn't love her anymore. And if his son actually believed that he doesn't love him after everything he has done for him, then that's his own fault, and that the only mistress was his mother who slept with her boss. I honestly didn't know what to say after that. He got back in the vehicle and we left. He has been in contact with his son, but his mother has been yielding insults on Facebook about how much of a pathetic father he is, and how she is constantly texting and calling, and of course my husband doesn't answer. He will answer his son's text, but he informed his son that things are going to change. I sort of feel like the jerk, but when I say that, my husband and his daughter say that this needed to happen. His oldest daughter knows how her mother is and actually has 0 contact with her. They tell me that he needed to know the truth and he needed to change his behavior. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Wow. Good for you for not giving into his nonsense and your husband for having a shiny spine. Now that's a power couple. I just need to know if you didn't know about the cheating, then I guess your stepson didn't. How did he take the news? That the real intimacy worker was his mother along. He called OP1 and so the witch, so yeah, she deserves to be called one. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You made allowances the first couple of years. He's 17, not 13 anymore. He is aware that his actions have consequences. He will learn or not learn. It's in his power to be the person he wants to be. Now for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I've got to say, the past week has been a roller coaster of emotions and events. After the explosive Christmas drop-off, things took a turn for the unexpected. My stepson, who had been so cold to me, suddenly started reaching out. At first, it was just a text here and there, asking about mundane things like where we kept the extra batteries or if I knew where his baseball cap was. But then, the messages started to become more frequent, and the tone shifted from indifferent to, dare I say, friendly. It turns out the confrontation with his dad shook him up more than we realized. He confessed to his sister that he felt guilty about how he'd treated me, especially after overhearing his dad defend me so fiercely. His sister, bless her heart, encouraged him to talk to me directly. Meanwhile, my husband was dealing with the fallout from his ex-wife's social media tirade. He's not one to air dirty laundry in public, so he kept his responses minimal and private. But the stress of it was wearing on him, and I could tell he was struggling with the whole situation. Then, 2 days ago, my stepson asked if he could come over to talk, just him and me. I was nervous to say the least, but I agreed. When he arrived, he was holding something behind his back. We sat down, and he started to apologize for his behavior over the years. He admitted that his mom had filled his head with lies about me, and he was sorry for believing them and for how he'd acted. And then he handed me the thing he'd been hiding. It was the set of Apple AirPods I'd bought him for his first Christmas with us. He'd fished them out of the trash all those years ago and kept them, never used, as a reminder of his behavior. He wanted to return them to me as a gesture of goodwill and a step towards mending our relationship. I was floored. I never expected this kind of turnaround. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, and it felt like we were finally making real progress. But just when I thought things were settling down, another news dropped. My husband's ex-wife, in a fit of what I can only assume was jealousy and rage, decided to show up at our house unannounced. She was screaming about how we were trying to turn her son against her. My husband was at work, so it was just me, my stepson, and his sister at home. My stepdaughter stepped up in a way I've never seen before. She confronted her mom, telling her that the only person turning her son against her was herself, with her lies and manipulation. It was a tense standoff, and for a moment, I thought it might come to blows. But then, my stepson did something I never would have imagined. He stood up to his mom. He told her that he was tired of being a pawn in her games, that he loved his dad and me, and that if she couldn't accept that, then maybe it was best if they took a break from each other. His mother left in a huff, and the house was quiet again. My husband came home to the tale of what had happened, and he was both proud and heartbroken. Proud of his children for standing up for themselves, and heartbroken that it had come to this. Since then, my stepson has been spending more time with us. He's opened up about how he's felt caught in the middle for years, and he's starting to see his mother's behavior for what it is. My husband has started to set boundaries with his ex, insisting that communication be about their son's well-being and nothing else. My daughter's prom dress ignites a feud, but when she lies to grandma, the truth unravels. She's not ready for the fallout. My 42-year-old friend Stacy has two teenage daughters, Janelle, 16 years old, and Anita, 12 years old. 2 years ago, her mother Edna, 82 years old, moved in. Edna mostly exists in an agitated state wherein she is unpleasantly fussy or anxious. She demands that things are just so. She demands to go to the doctor at the slightest discomfort, and as a woman who spends most of her day in bed or in a chair, she is often uncomfortable. Her hip hurts, her tailbone hurts, her back hurts. She can't poop. She has no appetite. It's always something. They have a home visit nurse who helps with bathing and personal care, but Stacy runs herself ragged, making sure Edna is catered to at all times. Janelle and Anita have it rough. Edna's presence has meant a very limited normal adolescence. Edna is afraid of the dark, so someone sleeps in her room every night. Edna doesn't care for noise, so they are very quiet. No friends over, no teenage television or loud music. Stacy is often too exhausted from caring for Edna to have time for her daughters. As a result, they don't spend time with their friends after school very often, and they don't participate in clubs or sports. A few times a year, Stacy's brother takes Edna for a week or so. I usually help Stacy clean out Edna's room during this time. While we cleaned earlier this month, Stacy told me it was too bad her brother couldn't have taken Edna next weekend, because then Janelle could have gone to the winter formal with the boy she liked. But since Edna would be home, it just wasn't going to work out for them. Janelle needed to be home, and Stacy didn't have the energy for shopping or makeup or hair. My heart broke for Janelle, and I told Stacy that Edna couldn't consume all the available resources like this, that this whole dynamic was unhealthy. I think I went overboard at this point when I went on to say that Edna isn't just consuming resources at home, but she's a part of why our medical system is dysfunctional, which is relevant. Stacy has bitterly complained that getting Janelle in to see her specialist doctor is a nightmare. When I took Janelle to one of her appointments because it conflicted with Edna's appointment, the waiting room was full of Edna's. The disease educator was full of funny stories about how people got confused about how to take care of their disease. She was more honest with me and said most patients wanted a magic pill, not rules to follow, so mostly these appointments were pointless. Edna isn't willing to do what the doctors say, even in her lucid, non-combative moments. She is not going to get better. I told Stacy that this effort to get Edna to the doctor 3 times a week does nothing for Edna, and it cripples the system for Janelle and everyone else who is actually trying, and that's just one example of over-prioritizing Edna. I finished by saying I couldn't watch Stacy sacrifice her daughter's last few years of carefree youth to Edna anymore, and I left. Mutual friends tell me that I started Wowoturai at Stacy's house. Mostly they agree with me, but Stacy is telling whomever will listen that I'm a jerk who wants to euthanize old people when they are in the way. I don't, but I do admit that I feel like there is a time to stop spending prime resources on them. Janelle is never going to forget that her mother never went dress shopping with her. Edna is never going to remember that Stacy has done everything for her. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, the truth hurts. The jerks are the ones running and telling the entire friend group, spending so much time complaining about the smallest discomfort, that their granddaughters can't have a normal childhood with normal milestone events. By the time Stacy pulls her head out of her butt long enough to realize it, her daughters may very well have gone no contact with her and her mother. Comment 2. Edna probably needs to be in a long-term care facility with 24/7 care if it becomes too much for Stacy. Why isn't the brother helping more, and why is it all on her? Being a caretaker is very stressful, especially with some elderly adults. If she keeps this up, she will lose her daughters, and then who will take care of her? Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since I last posted about my friend Stacy and her family situation with her mom Edna and daughters Janelle and Anita. You guys, I wish I could say things have gotten better, but buckle up because this update is a doozy. First off, remember how I mentioned Janelle couldn't go to the winter formal because of Edna? Well, turns out the boy she liked actually asked another girl, and they ended up being crowned king and queen of the dance. Janelle was devastated. She saw the pictures on social media and locked herself in her room for the whole weekend. Stacy tried to comfort her, but with Edna demanding attention every 5 minutes, it was like Janelle was invisible in her own home. But that's not even the half of it. Anita, the younger one, has been acting out at school. She got caught cheating on a test, and when the principal called Stacy, she was too busy at the doctor's with Edna to pick Anita up. So, I had to go. On the drive home, Anita confessed that she felt like she didn't exist to her mom anymore. It broke my heart, guys. Now, here's where things get really twisted. Stacy's brother, who usually takes Edna for a week here and there, got into some trouble at work. Apparently, he was embezzling money, and now he's under house arrest. So, no more breaks for Stacy. She's stuck with Edna 24/7, and it's taking a toll on her health. She's lost weight, looks tired all the time, and I swear her hair is turning gray overnight. But wait, there's more. Edna's health has actually gotten worse. She fell out of bed one night, and Stacy had to call an ambulance. The doctors said Edna needed surgery on her hip, but guess what? Edna refused because she's scared of hospitals. So now she's in even more pain and even more demanding. The home visit nurse, bless her, tried to talk some sense into Stacy. She told her that Edna needed professional care in a facility equipped to handle her needs. But Stacy just can't let go. She's convinced she's the only one who can care for her mom. And remember how I said Stacy was telling everyone I wanted to euthanize old people? Well, she's still at it. Our mutual friends are starting to avoid me because they don't want to get involved. It's like I'm the bad guy for suggesting that maybe Janelle and Anita should come first once in a while. Now, here's the jaw-dropping part. Janelle has been sneaking out at night. She met someone online, some guy who's been giving her the attention she's not getting at home. Stacy has no clue because she's so wrapped up in Edna. I only found out because I caught Janelle sneaking back in one morning when I came over early to help with Edna's care. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. Edna's demands have gotten so extreme that she insisted on having her room repainted because she didn't like the color anymore. Stacy actually did it. She spent a whole weekend painting that room instead of taking her daughters out like she promised. But here's the subtle twist of karma, guys. After the room was repainted, Edna developed an allergic reaction to the paint. She had to be hospitalized, and guess what? The doctors are keeping her there because they finally saw how bad her condition is. They're talking about moving her to a long-term care facility. Stacy is a mess. She feels guilty about the paint, guilty about neglecting her daughters, and guilty about her brother. Janelle and Anita are just trying to hold on until they can move out. And me? I'm just here, watching this train wreck and wondering how it all went so wrong. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.